Most people over 50 are fighting a fire they cannot even see. It does not always arrive with a fever, swelling, or one obvious painful spot. Instead, it can build quietly over years, showing up as stiff joints in the morning, slower recovery after physical work, a heart working harder than it once did, or a body that simply feels less resilient. Scientists sometimes use the word inflammaging to describe the gradual rise in chronic, low-grade inflammation associated with aging. That does not mean every ache comes from inflammation, and it certainly does not mean one food can switch the process off. But the larger pattern of what you eat can influence the environment your body has to work inside every single day. And here is what most people miss. Some of the most useful foods for supporting a healthier inflammatory balance are not expensive powders carrying dramatic promises. They are ordinary fish, greens, seeds, grains, berries, spices, fermented foods, and even weeds that earlier generations knew how to use. Subscribe to the Homestead Gardener because every week we uncover powerful foods, overlooked plants, and old wisdom that still matters today. Today, we are walking through 20 foods that may help support a calmer inflammatory response after 50, beginning with one that may already be growing somewhere you have been trying to destroy. Food 1. Purslane, the sidewalk weed hiding valuable fats in plain sight. Every summer, people find purslane spreading through garden beds, around patios, beside fences, and between paving stones. They pull it out, spray it, or toss it onto the compost pile without realizing they may be discarding an edible leafy vegetable. Purslane is a low-growing succulent with smooth, fleshy leaves and reddish stems. Its nutritional claim to fame is alpha-linolenic acid, commonly called ALA, the plant form of omega-3 fat. Purslane contains more ALA than most ordinary leafy vegetables, making its profile genuinely unusual. That does not make it equivalent to sardines or salmon, because the body converts only a limited amount of ALA into the longer-chain omega-3 fats, EPA, and DHA. Still, ALA remains an essential fat and has a legitimate place in a heart-conscious, plant-rich diet. Purslane also provides vitamin C, vitamin E, carotenoids, potassium, magnesium, and various plant compounds. Its flavor is crisp, fresh, and slightly lemony, with a texture that holds up better than delicate lettuce. Use young leaves and tender stems raw in salads. Fold them into eggs or add them near the end of cooking a soup so they do not disappear completely. In some traditional cuisines, purslane is mixed with yogurt, garlic, cucumber, or tomato. One caution matters. Purslane contains substantial oxalates, so anyone medically advised to limit high oxalate foods should moderate portions. Identification matters too. Edible purslane has clear sap, while toxic spurge lookalikes often release a milky liquid when broken. Never gather from sprayed lawns, polluted roadsides, or soil you do not trust. The weed most people curse may be one of the most interesting greens already growing without being invited. Food 2. Stinging nettle, the painful wild plant transformed by proper preparation. Fresh nettle makes an unforgettable first impression. Brush against it with bare skin and its fine hairs can inject irritating compounds that produce burning, itching, and redness. That defense is the reason many people never imagine putting nettle anywhere near a kitchen. Yet once the leaves are cooked, steamed, thoroughly dried, or carefully processed, those stinging hairs are neutralized. This transformation made nettle an important spring food across parts of Europe and other regions where young shoots appeared before many cultivated vegetables were ready. Nettle leaves provide carotenoids, vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, and other minerals. Although exact amounts vary according to soil, age, and preparation, the plant also has a long traditional history connected with joint discomfort and seasonal complaints. Some modern research has investigated nettle extracts, but an ordinary bowl of nettle soup should not be treated as equivalent to concentrated preparations used in studies. Its most defensible value is as a nutrient-dense wild green that adds variety to a plant-rich diet. Harvest only the youngest tops before flowering, wear thick gloves, and identify the plant with certainty. Do not collect from contaminated land, sprayed paths, industrial areas, or roadsides where exhaust and animal waste may accumulate. Blanch or simmer the leaves, then use them like spinach in soups, sauces, fillings, or savory pancakes. Dried nettle can also be steeped into an earthy tea, though tea does not provide the same fiber as eating the leaf. If you take diuretics, blood pressure medication, or glucose-lowering medication, concentrated nettle products deserve extra caution. Have you ever eaten nettle soup or tasted nettle tea? Tell me in the comments, because this is one of those foods earlier generations recognized immediately and many modern families no longer know at all. Food 3. Tart cherries, the sour fruit studied for recovery, joints, and uric acid. Sweet cherries dominate summer fruit displays, but tart cherries have built a very different reputation. Montmorency and similar sour varieties contain anthocyanins, the red and purple pigments that give the fruit its intense color and contribute to its sharp taste. These compounds are involved in antioxidant and inflammation-related pathways, which is why tart cherry juice and concentrate have been studied in athletes, people with joint discomfort, and individuals concerned about gout. Some human trials report improvements in muscle soreness, exercise recovery, sleep, or certain inflammatory markers. Other studies find smaller or inconsistent effects, and tart cherries should not be presented as a cure for arthritis or gout. They also do not replace uric acid-lowering medication when that has been prescribed. The practical lesson is that tart cherries can provide a concentrated source of polyphenols as part of a balanced eating pattern. Frozen tart cherries are often the most useful form because they contain the whole fruit without requiring added sugar. Add them to oatmeal, plain yogurt, or a smoothie balanced with protein. Unsweetened tart cherry juice is convenient but removes most fiber and makes natural sugar easier to consume quickly. So keep the serving moderate. Dried tart cherries frequently contain more added sugar than people expect, making the ingredient label important. In cooler regions, tart cherry trees can be productive and more disease-tolerant than some sweet varieties, though birds may reach the crop before you do. Their sourness is not something that must always be buried under sugar. It is part of what makes this overlooked fruit so bold, distinctive, and nutritionally interesting. Food 4. Sardines, the small fish delivering omega-3s in the form the body can use directly. Sardines once sat comfortably in American pantries, lunchboxes, and simple home meals. Over time, they gained a reputation as old-fashioned food, while larger and more expensive fish took over the spotlight. Nutritionally, that shift makes little sense. Sardines provide EPA and DHA, long-chain omega-3 fats, the body can directly use in pathways connected with cardiovascular function, the brain, cell membranes, and inflammatory signaling. Plant sources such as chia, flax, walnuts, and purslane provide ALA, which is valuable, but only part of it is converted into EPA and DHA. Sardines arrive with those longer-chain fats already formed. They also provide complete protein, vitamin B12, selenium, and often vitamin D. When the soft bones are included, they become an unusually convenient source of calcium as well. Because sardines are small, grow quickly, and live relatively short lives, they usually accumulate less mercury than large predators such as swordfish, shark, or certain tuna. Choose tins packed in water or olive oil, and compare sodium levels if you are limiting salt. Mash sardines with mustard, herbs, and lemon for toast. Fold them into pasta with garlic and parsley, or flake them over beans and greens. The bones are soft and normally disappear when mashed, but boneless varieties are available for beginners. If the flavor feels strong, pair them with acid, fresh herbs, capers, tomato, or onion. Sardines do not need to be trendy. They are affordable, shelf-stable, and one of the most concentrated whole food sources of marine omega-3s available without cooking a full fish. Food 5. Ginger, the warming root backed by more than tradition. Ginger has traveled through kitchens, trade routes, and traditional food systems for centuries. It is famous for nausea and digestive comfort, but researchers have also examined ginger preparations for osteoarthritis symptoms, glucose regulation, muscle soreness, and inflammatory markers. Ginger contains gingerols, shogols, and related compounds whose concentrations change when the root is dried, heated, or processed. Some controlled human studies have reported modest improvements in pain or inflammatory measures, but many used standardized powders or capsules in consistent amounts. A thin slice floating in weak tea is not the same same thing as a clinical dose, and ginger should not be treated as a replacement for medical care. Its strongest everyday advantage is that regular culinary use adds intensity and warmth to food without requiring sugary sauces. Grate fresh ginger into stir-fries, curries, lentil dishes, soups, marinades, or roasted vegetables. Simmer thicker slices for a stronger tea. Then add lemon rather than automatically loading it with honey. Keep unpeeled ginger in the freezer and grate it while frozen to reduce waste. Dried ginger has a different flavor and compound profile, but remains useful in baking, oatmeal, and spice blends. People taking anticoagulants, preparing for surgery, or using large supplemental doses should discuss heavy ginger intake with a qualified professional. Normal food use is generally different from concentrated supplementation. The goal is not to force enormous quantities into every meal. It is to use enough, often enough, that healthier food becomes more flavorful and easier to continue eating. Food 6. Turmeric, the golden spice, surrounded by both strong research and exaggerated promises. Turmeric has become one of the most heavily marketed spices in the health world. Its yellow color comes largely from curcuminoids, especially curcumin, compounds investigated for their effects on inflammatory pathways, oxidative stress, and joint discomfort. Some human trials and research reviews report benefits from standardized curcumin products, but there is a distinction that matters enormously. Those products may deliver concentrated and specially formulated amounts that are very different from the turmeric used in a normal curry. Culinary turmeric should not be presented as a drug or as an equivalent to a high-dose supplement. That does not make it worthless. It makes honest preparation and realistic expectations important. Curcumin is poorly absorbed on its own. Piperine from black pepper can increase absorption, and fat helps dissolve fat-soluble compounds. Traditional dishes often combine turmeric, pepper, and oil naturally, making curry, lentil soup, roasted vegetables, and spiced eggs sensible ways to use it. Do not assume that more is always better. Large supplemental doses may interact with blood thinners, aggravate gallbladder problems, or cause digestive discomfort. Supplements can also vary in purity and formulation. In food, turmeric adds color, earthiness, and depth, while helping vegetables, beans, and whole grains taste more satisfying. If you are learning something useful today, tap the like button so more people can find this kind of practical food knowledge. Turmeric belongs in the kitchen because it supports a strong overall pattern, not because one golden drink can erase years of habits overnight. Food 7. Sauerkraut, the fermented cabbage, connecting preservation, microbes, and flavor. Cabbage by itself is inexpensive and ordinary. Fermented with salt under the correct conditions, it becomes tangy, complex, and capable of lasting far beyond the fresh harvest. Traditionally fermented sauerkraut contains lactic acid bacteria and fermentation products created as those microbes consume sugars in the cabbage. Scientists continue to investigate how fermented foods influence the gut microbiome, immune signaling, and inflammatory markers. The relationship is far more complex than saying one forkful repopulates the gut, and no fermented food can guarantee a specific health result. Still, regular intake of varied fermented foods may contribute to microbial exposure and a diverse eating pattern. The product matters. Shelf-stable sauerkraut has often been heated for safety and storage, which kills live cultures. If live microorganisms are the goal, look for raw, naturally fermented kraut kept in the refrigerated section. Vinegar pickled cabbage can still be flavorful, but it is not the same as a live fermentation. Homemade sauerkraut is possible using cabbage, salt, clean tools, the correct salt ratio, and a tested method that keeps the cabbage beneath the brine. Mold, unusual colors, or a foul smell are signs not to experiment recklessly. Start with a tablespoon or two if fermented foods are new, since larger portions can cause bloating. Sauerkraut is high in sodium, so it should be treated as a condiment rather than an unlimited vegetable for people restricting salt. Its real strength lies in transforming a cheap crop into a bright, durable food that makes beans, potatoes, eggs, grains, and sandwiches far more interesting. Food 8. Flaxseed, the inexpensive seed offering fiber, lignans, and plant omega-3s. Flax has served human beings for thousands of years as both food and fiber. The seed is especially notable for alpha-linolenic acid and lignans, plant compounds, found in unusually high concentrations in flax. Researchers have examined ground flaxseed for effects on cholesterol, blood pressure, glucose regulation, bowel function, and inflammatory markers. Results vary depending on the amount used, how long the study lasted, and who participated. Flax is not a cure, but it is one of the simplest ways to add fiber and unsaturated fat to everyday meals. There is one kitchen rule that cannot be ignored. Whole flax seeds often pass through the digestive tract without being fully broken down. Grinding the seed allows the body to access far more of what is inside. Add 1 or 2 tablespoons of ground flax to oatmeal, yogurt, smoothies, pancakes, bread dough, or soups. It also works as a binder in some baking recipes when mixed with water. Once ground, the delicate oils are more exposed to oxygen, light, and heat. Store ground flax in the refrigerator or freezer and discard it if it smells bitter, sharp, or like old paint. Increase fiber gradually and drink enough fluid, especially if your current diet is low in fiber. Never swallow a large dry spoonful if you have difficulty swallowing or a history of bowel narrowing. Flax earns its place, not because it is glamorous, but because it costs little, stores easily, and can become a quiet daily habit rather than an expensive, short-lived trend. Food 9. Beet greens, the valuable leafy crop people remove before reaching the kitchen. Beets are usually sold and discussed for their colorful roots, while the leaves are cut off and discarded as though they were packaging. Beet greens are edible, flavorful, and nutritionally closer to Swiss chard than to the sweet root growing below them. They provide carotenoids, vitamin K, magnesium, potassium, fiber, and a range of polyphenols. No single serving should be described as directly eliminating inflammation, but increasing the variety and quantity of leafy greens is a defensible way to support a more nutrient-dense eating pattern. Separate the stems from the leaves because they cook at different speeds. Chop and sauté the stems first, then add the leaves with garlic, onion, olive oil, or a splash of vinegar. Beet greens can also be folded into eggs, stirred into beans, added to soup, or used anywhere you would normally reach for chard. Their flavor is earthy and slightly mineral, with a natural sweetness in the stems. Like spinach and chard, beet greens can contain substantial oxalates. People with a history of certain kidney stones, or those advised to follow a low oxalate diet, should moderate them. Anyone taking warfarin should also keep vitamin K intake reasonably consistent, rather than making sudden, large changes. This entry focuses on the greens as one clear food, but the root does not need to be wasted. Roast it, boil it, or pickle it using a safe recipe. The larger lesson is simple. When you buy a whole plant, look carefully before deciding that half of it belongs in the bin. Food 10. Pomegranate, the ancient fruit whose compounds continue working after digestion. Pomegranates have appeared in art, trade, religious symbolism, gardens, and food traditions across the Mediterranean and Middle East for thousands of years. The bright arrows contain anthocyanins, L-glutanins, and other polyphenols. During digestion, some of these compounds are transformed, including through the activity of gut microbes, into metabolites that researchers continue to study for vascular function, oxidative stress, and inflammatory pathways. Human studies have examined pomegranate juice and extracts in relation to blood pressure, cholesterol, exercise recovery, and various biomarkers. Results are not identical across studies, and concentrated extracts should not be confused with the whole fruit. Fresh arrows offer the major advantage of keeping some fiber with the juice. Scatter them over salads, plain yogurt, roasted squash, grain dishes, or oatmeal. 100% pomegranate juice can be used in a small serving, but it is easy to consume the sugar from several fruits quickly when the fiber has been removed. To open the fruit without covering the kitchen in red droplets, score the outer skin, break it into sections under water, and loosen the arrows while the bitter white material floats. In warm, dry climates, pomegranates can be long-lived and productive once established, though young plants need care and irrigation. The fruit does not need mystical claims attached to it. Its history, flavor, brilliant color, and unusual polyphenol profile already make it memorable enough. Food 11. Dandelion greens. The bitter spring food hiding inside a lawn problem. Dandelions are treated as enemies in modern lawns, yet their young leaves have long been gathered as early spring greens. After months dominated by stored grains, salted foods, and preserved meat, the first tender leaves offered bitterness, freshness, and vitamins when few other greens were available. Dandelion leaves provide carotenoids, vitamins A, C, and K, potassium, and a range of phenolic compounds. Traditional cultures often linked bitter greens with digestion, but that does not prove dandelion detoxifies the liver or cures inflammation. Its honest value lies in adding diversity, fiber, and micronutrients to the plate. Young leaves collected before flowering are usually less bitter. Toss them with richer ingredients such as olive oil, egg, walnuts, or cheese, or sauté them with garlic. Older leaves can be blanched briefly before cooking. The roots are used in some traditional beverages, but that is a different preparation with different compounds and should not be casually treated as the same food. Harvest only from property you know has not been treated with herbicides, lawn chemicals, or contaminated runoff. Avoid roadsides, dog walking areas, and industrial ground. Correct identification remains essential. Dandelion leaves form a basal rosette, and the flower grows on a hollow, unbranched stalk. When uncertain, leave the plant alone. Wild food can connect people with the land, but confidence must come from knowledge, rather than a phone application and a hopeful guess. Food 12. Walnuts. The tree nut, combining ALA, fiber, and powerful flavor in a small serving. Walnuts stand apart from many other nuts because they supply a meaningful amount of alpha-linolenic acid, the plant form of omega-3 fat. They also provide protein, fiber, magnesium, copper, and polyphenols, concentrated partly in the thin brown skin surrounding the nut. Human trials and large observational studies have connected regular walnut consumption with improvements in several cardiovascular risk markers. Their effects on inflammation are not identical in every study, and walnuts should not be treated as a medication. Their strongest practical benefit comes from replacing less useful snacks while adding unsaturated fats and greater satiety. A realistic serving is about 1 ounce, roughly a small handful, or around 7 whole walnuts, not an entire bowl eaten absent-mindedly. Their calories are concentrated, but that concentration can be useful when the portion is intentional. Add walnuts to oatmeal, salads, roasted vegetables, grain dishes, or plain yogurt. Pair them with fruit for a snack that combines sweetness, fat, fiber, and protein. Walnut oil offers flavor, but removes the fiber and protein of the whole nut, so it should not be treated as nutritionally identical. Walnuts contain delicate fats that oxidize more quickly than many people realize. Store them in the refrigerator or freezer, especially after opening, and discard nuts that taste bitter, stale, or paint-like. Fresh walnuts should taste mild, rich, and slightly sweet. This is not a food that needs enormous amounts. A small portion, used consistently, can do more for the overall quality of a diet than a cupboard full of processed snacks carrying empty health claims. Food 13. Extra virgin olive oil, the everyday fat supporting the larger Mediterranean pattern. Extra virgin olive oil sits at the center of traditional Mediterranean eating, one of the most thoroughly studied dietary patterns associated with cardiovascular health and healthy aging. The oil provides monounsaturated fat and a collection of polyphenols, including compounds associated with the peppery sensation at the back of the throat when tasting a robust, fresh oil. That pleasant sting can suggest the presence of certain phenolic compounds, but flavor alone cannot verify authenticity or quality. The strongest evidence belongs to olive oil as part of an eating pattern rich in vegetables, beans, whole grains, fish, nuts, fruit, and herbs. Drinking spoonfuls while continuing a heavily processed diet misses the entire point. Use olive oil to replace butter or other solid fats. Dress salads, finish soups, sauté vegetables, roast food, or carry the flavors of garlic and spices. Contrary to a common myth, quality extra virgin olive oil can be used for normal household cooking. Store it away from heat and sunlight, preferably in a dark bottle or tin, and use it while its aroma and peppery flavor remain lively. Check the harvest or best before information when available. though no label is a perfect guarantee. Olive oil is calorie-dense, so pouring without awareness can add up, but that does not make it unhealthy. It makes it a food worth using deliberately. Its real power appears when it turns beans, greens, tomatoes, fish, and grains into meals people genuinely enjoy enough to repeat. Food 14. Barley, the ancient grain carrying a special form of soluble fiber. Barley was once a foundation grain across the ancient Mediterranean, Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. It fed workers, soldiers, families, and livestock, and appears repeatedly in historical and biblical settings. Today, it has largely been displaced by refined wheat products, white rice, and more convenient processed grains. That disappearance is unfortunate because barley is a strong source of beta-glucan, a soluble fiber also found in oats. Beta-glucan forms a viscous mixture during digestion, slowing the movement and absorption of nutrients. It can support healthier cholesterol levels and create a steadier glucose response compared with rapidly digested refined grains. Gut microbes also ferment portions of this fiber, producing short-chain fatty acids that researchers study in relation to intestinal and metabolic health. Whole barley retains more of the outer grain, while pearl barley has been polished to cook more quickly. Pearl barley still contains useful fiber, but whole barley is generally the more intact form. Simmer barley until pleasantly chewy. Use it in place of white rice. Add it to vegetable soup or cool it for salads with herbs, beans, and olive oil. Barley contains gluten and is not suitable for people with celiac disease or others medically required to avoid gluten. It may also need soaking or longer cooking depending on the type. This grain deserves a comeback because it is inexpensive, filling, shelf-stable, and able to transform a thin soup into a substantial meal without pretending to be exotic. Food 15. Mushrooms, the fungi offering compounds that ordinary vegetables do not. Mushrooms are not plants. They belong to the fungal kingdom, and that difference is exactly why they contribute a distinctive combination of compounds. Edible mushrooms provide fiber, B vitamins, selenium, potassium, ergothioneine, and beta-glucans, whose structures differ from the beta-glucans found in grains. Researchers continue to investigate ergothioneine and mushroom compounds in relation to oxidative stress, immune signaling, cognition, and healthy aging. Many of the strongest claims online come from concentrated extracts, medicinal species, laboratory experiments, or animal studies. A plate of sautéed button mushrooms should not be presented as though it delivers the same result. Their everyday value remains excellent. Mushrooms add savory flavor and a satisfying, meaty texture with relatively few calories. Some mushrooms exposed to ultraviolet light provide meaningful vitamin D, but amounts vary dramatically. Check the nutrition label rather than assuming every package contains a large dose. Cook common mushrooms thoroughly for better digestibility and flavor. Heat a pan, avoid overcrowding it, and allow the mushrooms to release and evaporate their moisture before expecting deep browning. Button, cremini, portobello, oyster, and shiitake mushrooms each bring different textures and flavors. Never eat wild mushrooms based on an app, photo, or casual comparison. Some deadly species resemble edible ones, and certainty requires genuine expertise. We are well into the second half now, so send this video to someone over 50 who still thinks eating well has to mean expensive supplements and joyless food. Food 16. Chia seeds, the tiny seed that transforms water, texture, and fullness. Chia seeds were cultivated and consumed in parts of Central America long before becoming a modern health food trend. They provide fiber, alpha-linolenic acid, magnesium, calcium, and plant protein. Their defining feature is the thick gel created when the seeds absorb liquid. That soluble fiber can slow digestion, increase fullness, and change the texture of a meal. Human studies examining chia in relation to blood pressure, glucose control, weight, and inflammatory markers have produced mixed results. The seed should not be treated as a cure, but it remains a convenient way to add fiber and unsaturated fat. Unlike flax, chia does not always need to be ground for the body to access much of its nutrition. Stir a tablespoon into oatmeal, yogurt, soup, or a smoothie. For pudding, mix it thoroughly with milk or another liquid. Stir again after several minutes to prevent clumps and allow it to thicken. The major safety rule is simple. Never swallow a large amount of dry chia and expect to drink water afterward. The seeds expand quickly and can be dangerous for people with swallowing difficulties. Always combine them with adequate liquid before eating. Increase the amount gradually if your digestive system is not accustomed to much fiber. Chia is useful because it stores well, requires no cooking, and can improve a breakfast that might otherwise contain almost no fiber. Its value appears through sensible repetition, not through turning every drink into a jar of thick seeds. Food 17. Black currants. The deeply colored berry pushed out of American memory by agricultural history. Black currants remain familiar in parts of Europe, but disappeared from many American farms and kitchens during the 20th century. Currant plants can host white pine blister rust, a disease that threatened valuable pine forests, leading to federal and state restrictions. Rules have since changed in many places, and resistant varieties are available, but regulations can still differ by state and locality. This history helps explain why many Americans have never tasted a berry that was once common elsewhere. Black currants contain exceptionally high levels of vitamin C and large amounts of anthocyanins responsible for their nearly black-purple color. Researchers have studied black currant juices and extracts in connection with circulation, exercise recovery, eye health, oxidative stress, and inflammatory markers. Concentrated products should not be confused with a spoonful of fresh berries, but the whole fruit remains a powerful source of color and polyphenols. Its flavor is intense, tart, aromatic, and almost wine-like. Use fresh or frozen currants in smoothies, sauces, low-sugar compotes, or plain yogurt. Unsweetened juice can be used sparingly because liquid fruit makes sugar easier to consume quickly. In cooler climates, currant bushes can be hardy and productive, often tolerating some shade better than many fruit crops. Check local regulations and choose approved varieties before planting. Black currants are not forgotten because they lacked value. They vanished largely because disease control and agriculture reshaped what American families were allowed and encouraged to grow. Food 18. Garlic. The familiar bulb improved by a simple 10-minute pause. Garlic is so common that people rarely stop to consider how much chemistry takes place after one clove is cut. When garlic tissue is crushed or chopped, an enzyme begins converting precursor compounds into allicin and related sulfur substances. Heat can inactivate that enzyme quickly. Allowing chopped garlic to rest for roughly 10 minutes before cooking gives the reaction more time to occur. That does not turn the clove into medicine, and it does not guarantee a clinical effect. Many human trials use standardized garlic powders, aged extracts, or supplemental preparations that differ greatly from ordinary culinary use. Still, researchers have examined garlic products in connection with blood pressure, cholesterol, glucose control, and inflammatory markers. The everyday advantage is even more obvious. Garlic makes beans, greens, mushrooms, fish, grains, and vegetables taste satisfying without sugar-heavy sauces. Chop it early while preparing the rest of the ingredients. Allow it to rest, then add it without burning it. Scorched garlic becomes bitter and unpleasant. Plant individual cloves in autumn with the pointed end facing upward. Cover with soil and mulch, and harvest the bulbs when several lower leaves begin to brown while upper leaves remain green. Cure the bulbs in a dry, airy, shaded location before trimming and storage. People using anticoagulants or planning surgery should be cautious with high-dose garlic supplements, though ordinary food use is different. Garlic demonstrates something important. Preparing a familiar food with a little more knowledge can matter more than chasing an unfamiliar product carrying a louder label. Food 19. Sweet potato leaves. The edible harvest growing above the root Americans already know. In many American gardens, sweet potato vines spread vigorously through summer, yet almost all attention remains focused underground. Once the roots are harvested, the vines are commonly discarded. Across parts of Africa, Asia, and the Pacific, tender sweet potato leaves and shoots are eaten as regular green vegetables. They provide fiber, carotenoids, minerals, and polyphenols, though the exact profile changes with variety, maturity, soil, and cooking. Laboratory studies often highlight their antioxidant activity, but that should not be transformed into a claim that one serving directly lowers inflammation in the human body. Their defensible strength is that they add another leafy green to the diet while producing food from garden space already being used. Harvest young leaves and tender tips rather than stripping the entire plant, because the vines still need foliage to feed the roots developing below. Wash the leaves and cook them as you would spinach or water spinach. Sauté them with garlic and olive oil. Stir them into beans, fold them into eggs, or add them to soups and stews. Make sure the vine comes from an edible sweet potato crop rather than assuming every ornamental vine should be eaten. Ordinary sweet potato leaves are commonly cooked rather than consumed in enormous raw servings. This food captures the spirit of practical self-reliance. One crop, 2 useful harvests, less waste, and a familiar garden plant, revealing a side most people were never taught to use. Food 20. Rose hips. The tart fruit appearing after the flower has finished its show. Roses are usually grown for beauty, fragrance, and symbolism. After the petals fall, many varieties form small, red, orange, or dark fruits called hips. These fruits contain vitamin C, carotenoids, and various polyphenols, though amounts vary considerably by species, ripeness, storage, drying, and cooking method. Rose hips gained special importance in wartime Britain when imported citrus became scarce. Organized collection programs encouraged families to gather hips for syrup intended to provide vitamin C, especially for children. Modern research connected with joint comfort has frequently used standardized rose hip powders in measured doses, not a weak homemade tea. That distinction must remain clear. A cup of rose hip tea should not be presented as equivalent to a concentrated clinical preparation. Rose hips can still be a valuable seasonal food when correctly identified and safely prepared. Harvest only from rose plants that have not been sprayed with ornamental pesticides unsuitable for edible crops. Avoid roadside bushes and contaminated ground. Remove stems and blossom ends. And strain teas, syrups, and purees carefully because the fine hairs surrounding the seeds can irritate skin and the digestive tract. Rose hips can be dried for tea, cooked into jelly, or made into syrup using a trusted, tested recipe. Because vitamin C is sensitive to heat and storage, aggressive boiling and long storage reduce some of it. This final food represents the entire lesson. After the obvious beauty disappears, something useful may still be growing where almost nobody thinks to look. So there they are, 20 foods that may help support a healthier inflammatory balance after 50. From small, oily fish and fermented cabbage to berries, bitter greens, ancient grains, seeds, spices, fungi, and edible plants hiding in ordinary yards. None of them cures arthritis, reverses aging, guarantees pain relief, or replaces medical treatment. Their strength comes from the wider pattern they create when used consistently. More fiber feeds the gut and slows meals down. More colorful plants bring a broader range of polyphenols and carotenoids. Marine omega-3 fats add compounds the body can use directly. Nuts and seeds replace heavily processed snacks. Beans, vegetables, and whole grains push refined foods into a smaller corner of the plate. Fermented foods, herbs, spices, and olive oil make that pattern enjoyable enough to continue. Do not try to purchase all 20 tomorrow and force them into a perfect routine that disappears within a week. Choose 2 or 3 that fit your budget, climate, kitchen, and existing habits. Learn how to prepare them safely, use them often, and allow the routine to become ordinary. Tell me in the comments which food surprised you most and which one you are genuinely going to try. I am Jack, and here at the Homestead Gardener, we will keep uncovering practical food knowledge, useful plants, and older wisdom that still deserves a place at the modern table. Take good care of your garden, your kitchen, and yourself.